Okay, going to do this video really quickly regarding the last 9 years because it's not let it go, it's continuing to date. From my mother's side, especially. So, again, I've never been a drug user ever in my life. I've never been a drug dealer. I don't know why people thought this of me. When I was getting monitored and surveillance, and those from family members, which I was, I've asked several times for them to be arrested. I'm not going to back down. Amanda can be arrested for it. Miriam Mihalski should have been, so should Robin Childs, so should Christy Childs. They were all made very aware that in 2015 that the information that was spread was not true, to correct it, and that's it. But what the problem is with my mother, Carol Ann Purdy, her first husband's my father, Mark Fleming, so she was Carol Fleming for some stage, and her second husband's Mark Rackley, so she was Rackley for some stage as well. This is where the problem started. The Rackleys have always been massive, huge drug users. Cannabis smokers, alcoholics, drug users, which is apparently why Mum divorced him, but it's like, well, why did you date him to begin with? So you can sit back and say, oh, that's why I divorced him, but the question still remains, why did you go out with him? His son, Daniel Rackley, who a lot of Tamworth people know, especially the Freemasons from the Freemason nursing home and the nursing industry, they know Daniel Rackley. They would know Faith Marie Rackley as well, the daughter that my mother had with her second husband, because she's a junkie. Well, they're drug users. The Rackleys are. It must be a DNA thing. I've often sat back and thought it's got to be DNA with them. They've had suicide, deep-seated depression, and drug use. Now, I had this project into my life, which has caused me damage. It's like, there's nothing to do with me. This is my stepfather's family, and I'm getting harassed for 9 years for my stepfather's family. One of the new doctors I was talking to goes, oh, but you got to let that go. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you made a mistake. You made a mistake by affiliating me or wrongly identifying me and not believing me or listening to me. Like when I said, I've had a green card since 2014. It's not greyhound therapy. I just went for the green card process. I did study design because I did. I didn't say I passed a degree in design. And I never, even on my green card application, what I had said was exactly the truth. On my green card application, I still have it. The truth, which was in 1996, I studied fine arts certificate. Okay? Now, I only passed first year because I didn't continue, because then in 1997, I studied design fundamentals. I have the transcripts of what I've passed. Then in 2009, I went to Emerald Design Centre, TAFE College. I studied design events illustration, where I received a credit for my pass in design a wearable object. Then in 2010, I studied interior decoration 101 and subjects with that. So I have a whole lot of transcripts of subjects that I have passed. Okay, I was a VIP host at Star Casino. Whether people accept it or not is beside the point. If you're going to commit defamation of character, then you need to be charged for that. It's a civil matter that has continued to date, so I still actually have. So you've got people like ex-employees at Star Casino, which are drug users, ice users, and all these sorts of stuff. That, like Sam Delati. Sam Delati is one. So is his partner, who's a nurse, which is I don't know what his last name is, but Neil. And I was like, yeah, but I was a VIP host. I mean, look, when Tony Pacello was an executive host, and he left in 2003, just after 2002, so it was after 2002, Sarah Magnoni decided to combine. So first, what it used to be was main gaming floor hosts, and the main gaming floor hosts looked after the Star Lounge, the Oasis Lounge, the Lagoon Host Desk, the the host desk that was near the main cage, the slot hosts, so we were slot hosts as well, and pit hosts. So that's what the job initially was. So you didn't have anything to do with the Endeavour Room, okay? And it didn't really have much to do with Endeavour Room after they joined them and became one blanket cover. So Sarah Magnoni did that. So after 2002, he then joined it, so which meant main gaming floor hosts could work in the Endeavour Room. So it made it more sort of user-friendly. It meant they could, if they were, basically, they needed hosts downstairs in the main gaming floor, they could ring the quiet area of the Endeavour Room and ask for a host to come down and work. So it was to do that. I could not stand the Endeavour Room, but I did cover breaks in the Endeavour Room. It was just too boring and quiet for me. So I did cover reception breaks. That's all I ever did in the Endeavour Room. I covered reception, which meant giving access, which was exactly like Star Lounge downstairs. And that is all I did. Now, as I said, it went from VIP, like it went from Endeavour Room, it was Endeavour Room hosts and main gaming floor hosts, and Sarah Mignani combined them. So and then it became VIP host. And that continued right up until I was mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007, and my employment continued to October 2009. So there's all the facts. I have never been a drug dealer, but I've been accused of being a drug dealer in everywhere I have lived now since around 2016. Because of I drove a BMW, my expensive furniture, my expensive jewelry, my clothing, I had beautiful Cavalli jackets, but I had them back in my 20s. So my clothing, my expensive clothing is from my 20s, not from now. My shoes is from my 20s. My jewelry is from my 20s. And all this started because when I left Giovanni Consalvo, my ex-partner, I haven't been with anyone after that. I don't care what people say on social media. I don't care. I slept with complete strangers. These were nothing more than people I briefly had sex with. I never had a relationship with, and apparently I started getting tagged into who these people were, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. If a guy approaches me, which is what, so for example, after I brought my dog from Brett Aikenhead, who I don't know, met him in April 2015. I'm not going to give this any more attention, okay, because it's been explained enough. And I've emailed police about it several times. It's up to them to press criminal charges against these people, and I will keep fighting that matter as a matter that should be causing 9 years of damage. Then after this crap went on, in 2016, I'm walking my dog around Reg Oval side of Rushcutters Bay Park, and a gentleman walked up to me by the name of Peter Fry. He introduced himself as being a friend of Brett Aikenhead's. Now, thanks to social media, the person who picked this up was my mother's niece, Christy Child. So Miriam Mahowski and Christy Child, so my own family members started accusing me of being a drug dealer and all this other stuff. They should have been arrested. However, they sucked up Mum's cousin, so little Brian. I know this because I ended up sending a bullshit text message to little Brian back then in 2016 just to see if he's going to bite, because he was a police officer. So little Brian, which is my nan, Lola May, her brother Brian Keegan's son. Because I know what my mother's sister Robin Childs is like. I know what... She's a deadbeat. Robin Childs is a deadbeat. I can't stand her. It's Robin Childs' children. Robin Childs' son, Shane Childs, which... I tell you what, my grandfather couldn't stand him either, as much as Robin thinks that he liked him. He hated Shane Childs. Shane Childs used to sniff... I can tell you this now. Shane Childs used to sniff aerosol cans. He was a dirtbag, cannabis smoking. Like, Robin Childs used to give Shane and Christy Childs alcohol when they were young. They're just deadbeat people that you would never want to be affiliated with. We're talking about scum people that would do anything to discredit mine and my twin sister's name, because that's what they've always done to try and get in with my grandparents. The fact is, they've been jealous since we were born, and that's the fact. So is Mary Mahowski. She was 12 years old when we were born, and this all came out when Pop died in November 2002. So I've said to several organisations, this is nothing to do with you. We are talking about a family feud, conflict of interest and family arguments that has gone back to even before Pop died in 2002. They're control freak, narcissistic, toxic, vindictive women that should be up on criminal charges, and they're using and manipulating organisations such as police force, disability organisations like mental health and so forth for their own personal vendetta. This is what they do. Police have been told several times to me, they didn't listen to me in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. I'm living in America. They kept it going in America. And I came back losing everything because of it. Because in America, apparently I was a drug dealer. That's where all my money came from. And I've now saying this is not right. I'm taking this to the government. I've been taking all these documents through to the Department of Foreign Affairs. I'm not the one that defamed myself. Here's the proof, and I'm not going to stand back and be lied about. I was accused of being a drug user, a drug dealer, being mentally retarded, then apparently scamming disability and all this stuff. And it was like, but none of this is all extreme defamation, and those people not only should be charged with criminal defamation by New South Wales Police, they should be charged with recklessly endangering my health for 9 years. You're not going to let a group, an organisation, or even people such as groups like the Aboriginal Society. You're not going to let them get away with it. The laws are broken within my life. You have a duty of care towards me, who's had a disability, who's had an injury, who's had health problems, who went through all of that, who still had my money and assets and belongings and savings and everything that I worked really hard for, who then moved forward with my life from that and then just had 9 years of having it destroyed. You're not going to. As New South Wales Police, and I don't care how far I've got to keep taking this, now I'm going to take it right through to the Department of Foreign Affairs. That's my money. I can back it up with bank statements. And I can back it up. Where did it come from? Easily can be explained. Here's my salary package at Star Casino, whether Christy Childs likes it or not, and that's the one that had the problem with it. My mum's niece, Christy Childs, is a little scumbag, and my mum's younger sister, Miriam Mihowski, who's a little scumbag. Whether they like it or not, my salary package at Star Casino was $47,730 a year. Okay, I took home, about $43,000 a year, something like that. But then I was working side jobs in my 20s. I did do labouring for Jeff, this guy who ran his business out of Hunters Hill. His father was an engineer. Oh God, I've got Jeff's name, his last name, can't think of it right now. But anyway, I met Jeff through my partner at the time, which was John Cabino, John. And it was a second job that I did. So all I did was lift glass sheets. Basically, it was pool fencing, most of it, where he'd already done the measurements. He'd already put in the ground where the these little silver sort of chrome sort of things that the glass sits into. All I had to do on the days he had to install the fence was go to work with him, lift them into place, tighten it up, and that was it. Okay, so it was a good job. I could have as a second job because I was just lifting. It was like lifting weights. That's what I was doing. Basically, that was my second job. And then I did some light maintenance work where I replaced vanities because I didn't do the electrician. I could do the plumbing. So I've actually replaced forceps, tap fittings, and the vanities. So basically, that was all I did, except for one time I did a floating floor. And that was with a guy. So these were my side jobs. So I had a lot of money coming in and I saved it. Then when I sold my investment property, 16 Scott Road, that used to be in Tamworth, I didn't live there. I had it as a rental property, so it was rented out the entire time. I sold that in 2008, and I made a good profit on that place. I didn't have to sell it, but I wanted to because I didn't want any connection to Tamworth. That's why I sold it. It wasn't because I needed the money. I just sold it because I was sick and tired of having an investment property so far away. I didn't want to have any affiliation with the place. So I sold it and I put the money in the bank, and the money sat in the bank right up until I was ready to buy in America. Now there's the facts and there's the truth. Now I've been that badly lied about in the last 9 years, and it is up to New South Wales Police and Federal Police to take this further. You're not going to sit back and go, oh, he's used drugs his entire life when I've never used drugs. Daniel Rackley and the Rackleys and even Shane Childs and so forth for these cannabis smokers. I've already made it clear, Tamworth people who said I was a blonde haired guy, you're talking about, give me a second, Baxter. Assieds-toi. Baxter. He's showing off, my dog, because I've just come home. I've been in the city all day, so still getting lied about. So I'm going to be really quickly and tell you, Bax, don't. I've just put fresh. No. Did you hear that? I don't know if that picks up in the camera, but he's telling me off. My dog is so cute. So there's a guy in Tamworth who, is called Darren Taylor. A Aboriginal girl, which is Jess Rowling's sister, Beth Rowling or Beth Blackmore, actually thought I was him. I don't know why. Well, I could have actually also helped with that matter because I was playing a prank on Brett Aikenhead back in December 2015. So here's the thing. Brett Aikenhead was one of the ones that was involved in all this, and the whole rally around friends and family. He was trying to find out things to do with friends and family of mine. Now, this guy's a complete stranger who was up on criminal charges for assaulting me back in October 2015. And then this happened should never have happened. I said that there's negligence right there. Brett Aikenhead is somebody that was a free prostitute, nothing more. He was just what's called in the gay word a fuck buddy fling. I brought my dog from him and had sex with a guy. That's it in a story. I'm not going to explain it in detail. So I was playing a prank on him and go, oh, about this Beth Rowland thing, or Beth Blackmore, whatever her name is. Now, she went out with Darren Taylor. So when this rally around friends and family started, I did have people that actually obviously clearly knew Darren Taylor from Tamworth and here's the beauty of it, because they're like, oh, he lived with his grandfather. And then you got people from Sydney going, that's right, he lived with his grandparents. I'm like, yeah, in Sydney, my grandfather's not from Tamworth. But I know, and I kept listening to and it's like, blonde hair? I never had blonde hair, not since I was a baby. And then it was, oh no, he dyed his hair blonde. I'm like, no, not since when I was working at Sark Casino, I used to put foils in it. No, and I'm like, blonde hair, oh, Darren Taylor. And then it was like, oh, because Darren Taylor put blue in his hair and green in his hair as well. I remember this because we were at the same musical. We were in the same musical. So I told my family, I told my mother, I told my auntie, I told my twin sister Amanda, which would never, ever, I would never, ever have anything to do with Amanda again because it's gone too far. So don't involve her. Amanda was told the truth by me. She chose to be kept under a bubble by these insane people where she lives. Don't ever. I won't speak to her again. For the rest of my life, I will never speak to Amanda again because of the last 9 years, and that will never, ever change. It won't change. She had a chance. Her behaviour is unacceptable. I want nothing to do with her, and I've wiped her out of my life for life. And that is it. So Darren Taylor, and I said this to my family, I said, oh, well, since this ridiculous line in 2015, I've had people who know Darren Taylor. Or how do I know? Well, they described somebody from Oxley who had blonde hair. They got the musicals right, but then a straight guy who's involved in drugs. Well, I've never been straight. Not involved in drugs. My hair wasn't long and blonde. You can see that in photos of me. And didn't go to Oxley High. It's a completely different person. I wasn't living with my grandfather in Tamworth because my grandfather's not from Tamworth. And then my mother kept saying to people, oh, this is how it happened. My mother, Carol, lied to people and said he grew up in Tamworth. Well, I didn't grow up in Tamworth. So then I had organisations that were looking for somebody who did grow up in Tamworth, which means they're from birth to 10. We didn't move. My mother didn't move there until the week of our 10th birthday. So they did have wrong information in the area. There was information related to Darren Taylor projected onto me. There was information related to Justin Pascoe, who's older than me, projected onto me. And that was easy when I had people say, oh no, I remember you. You had this coloured hair. You had a brother at the high school. Like your brother was there. Or you said he was your brother. I'm like, I never said anyone was my brother at high school. And I didn't wear camouflage clothes to high school because I wasn't in cadets. And I was like, oh, they're talking about Justin Pascoe. That happened. But then the most common they were talking about, which is the nurses and Freemasons from Tamworth, and I've told police several times to arrest these people, you are talking about Daniel Rackley. So you're talking about Mark Rackley's son. You're talking about Daniel Rackley, who's heavily involved in alcoholism and drugs. And he lived in Tamworth. He moved there around 1995. My mother and his father divorced. Separated in 1994, divorced in 1995, and then you've also given me information related to Shane Charles. Now, as for the criminals that involved themselves after I was lied about in 2015, I made that clear. I mean, I did play the best prank I could probably possibly do. You've got, it wasn't hard to put two and two together when you've got my scrubber of a niece who cousin, my mother's niece who I can't stand. So I'm being a smart ass in 2016 going like, oh, these people upstairs and I'm going to do this and that. Because I had Christy on the other and I'm trying to catch Christy out basically. So I was doing it deliberately. It wasn't true, which is, as well. It wasn't hard when Christy said to me, oh, you should have had kids with this Stephanie. I'm like, oh, this Facebook stalker Stephanie has obviously been in touch with Christy Childs since she since she harassed me in 2015, and Mary Mihowski. So I was like, oh. So even though I told them that the information that was said about me in 2015 is not true, they still broke prying laws, confidentiality laws, and privacy laws by even driving from where they live into my area of residence where I have lived the longest period of my time. So longest period of my time that I have lived in my entire life. I have not lived anywhere longer than Surrey Hills and Rushcutters Bay. That is the longest period I've lived anywhere. Now, as myself being mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007, my living home environment and the surroundings are extremely important to me to not be harassed and stalked, intimidated, and so forth. Police are extremely aware of this, and so they should be. This has been part of my recovery after I was mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007. That, I still live around these areas, so there's no trauma affiliated, but my living home environment is extremely important. It's through every single medical document that you're going to find on me. Now, this was deliberately done. Mary Mahowski was coming to Sydney harassing me. Other people affiliated with Brett Aikenhead was, and this is ridiculous. These are strangers. Stephanie DeSalis was, Mark Hanna was. Okay, fair enough. I met Mark Hanna back in April 2002, but I've had nothing to do with him since August 2003. Okay, it's there. And that's it. So I'm not going to put up with that. Friends of Stephanie DeSalis like Michael Raptis, and police were told since 2015 to press charges. Now, it didn't happen in 2015. It didn't happen in early 2016 when I kept bringing it up. And I turned to Giovanni Consalvo, my ex-partner, Gio, and said, this is what's going on. Watch me then play a prank on these people. Watch me. I said, I'm not a fool when there's monitoring and surveillance going on. And there was a definite monitoring. I've got the documents for it. And my mother, actually, I've emailed them to her recently, and she's a piece of work. And she goes, oh, they're fake. I'm like, it's not fake. It's not fake at all. Thank you very much. There was people from my high school who I haven't had anything to do with since 1995. I'm not from the area, so I don't see why I'd have anything to do with the New England area. I'm not from there. Who harassed me in my area residents, and they should have been arrested for it. They harassed me in America. They should have been arrested for it. Police have been told I won't back down because they will be charged for it and I'll be reimbursed the damages that they've caused me for 9 years, including pain and suffering and undoing all the recovery I made from being mugged and robbed November 30, 2007. Those people caused it. Why would I sit back? It's a criminal matter. It's a legal matter, and police had a duty of care to be charging those responsible, and they should have done this already. I have called them several times. I actually called them today. I called them over the weekend. I've called them on Sunday. I've kept so much diary notes of how many times I've called police and said, but you should be knowing that I was mugged and robbed November 30, 2007. I'm not mentally retarded because I've had an injury. I don't need people spying in my life. I don't need people coming into my area. I don't need looking after. I don't need a support network. I don't need things done for me. I do everything by myself. I have had an injury. You do not let these people get away with this behavior. And every time it's been, oh, have you made a formal statement? I'm like, I have tried to make a formal statement. I can tell you what dates. You've chose to not press criminal charges because you believed something that wasn't true about me. And sure, I will admit I was being the biggest smart ass from 2016 to 2018. I did it deliberately. So I did it deliberately to catch the people out. Like I was pretending to be, this idiot thought I was mentally retarded. So then I acted back like I was mentally retarded. I thought, if you want to twist my injuries and make me, if you want to defame me, which is what happened, defamation and discrimination. So if you're going to defame me, then I'm going to act mentally retarded back to you. I'm not mentally retarded just because I've got damage and injuries. I think that's so disgusting. Then I was accused of being a drug user. I'm like, whoa, if you're going to accuse me, I'm being a smart ass back. And I was, and okay, I apologized to police when I was doing it to them. Walking around and pretending to be afraid of the people under the bridge in Woolloomooloo. I did it deliberately. That's right, because you idiots monitored and surveillanced. So I walked up Cathedral Street to turn right on Forbes Street in 2018, pretended to be afraid of the Aboriginals under the bridge because it was the Aboriginal Society that was also harassing me. And then I walked up entered my car park area, sat in the garden, and basically within less than a minute, one of these support social workers that were, surveillance, came down and checked to see if I was alright. I was like, there we go. I just proved that point. I made a note of it, made a diary note. So I kept doing this, and then my mother said, why waste your time? You've got your green, forget it, just forget it and move on. You've got your green cards and the rest, you still got your money, you still got your assets, move. So I did. And the problem is, I did let it go and move on. I was living in the US where I've held the green card since 2014. I moved there in 2018. I had my own condo that I was going to sell to make money out of and move to the city. I was going to buy and own in Atlantic City. I had my furniture, my assets and belongings, but what I ended up having was these issues were caused towards me in America. The same issues from Australia with the wrong information. I had Stephanie DeSalis, Christy Childs knowing where I lived in the US. I had the same harassment from people that was unwanted, mental health idiots. And it's like, yeah, well, look, you already told you have a psychotic breakdown. A magistrate already proved that. And I'm not a drug dealer. My money's come from here. Here's my bank statements. I don't use drugs. I'm not in that environment, even though you're surveillancing me and I'm being a smart ass and mockery sarcastic. It's beside the point. Is there anything that's showing up in my blood and urine? No. So that proves I'm not using drugs. Okay? And then nothing showed up in any blood and urine that's pretty much overlapped itself from even 2015 to 2018. So don't accuse me of, oh, you fried your brain on drugs, which is what my mother, Marianne, and Robin Charles try to do. But this is what they do. They're good three women at defamation of character and slander because police haven't bothered arresting them yet. I really can't stand my mother and her sisters. I will go as far as saying I hate their guts, and this is going back my entire life. I hate their guts. Absolutely hate their guts. I had to put up with them, which was the most horrific experience of my entire life. My nan and Pop, so this is when Pop was alive, were like, look, I'm sorry you have to go through that. You're their whipping post. They make use out of you. Pop used to get the shits. Pop stormed out the back so many times after the way Marianne. Pop hated Marianne. Marianne thinks whatever, but Pop hated Marianne Mahowski's guts. Pop hated Robin Child's guts. And the only one that Pop ever said that he was actually liked and was really hoping that would turn out to be like Lola's mother's side of the family was my mother. And then Pop said to me, well, that all changed when she got with Mark Rafferty, didn't it? And my grandfather, Reginald George Purdy, used to storm out the back and say, Lola, he got the shits the way they treated me. Pop got the shits the way my mother and her sisters treated me. And Pop would storm out the back and say, will you control your daughters? Lola, control your daughters. And Nan would turn around and say, Reg, I can't control them as much as I can control the weather, but I'll tell you now, I hate their guts. And I had to put up with them to keep the peace because Nan would say, look, just bite your tongue, keep the peace. Because if you say anything to them, and this will tell you how much control freak narcissists they really are. If you say anything to them, they'll stop me from seeing you. So just very controlling. So look, besides me putting on what I could do, and I did it in May 2018 as well in front of Robin and Marianne. I thought, no, you two are going to finally get held accountable for your mouth. I know you've been coming to Sydney. I know you broke privacy laws. I know you broke prying laws. Police are going to arrest you for it because that is their job. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that finally you lot get arrested. So, yeah, there was none of this. I wasn't doing things like I was doing, in all this rubbish. Oh, and the rubbish in 2016. Oh, please, I can explain that so easily. Besides me really trying to prove, trying to prove the modern styles, but trying to prove these idiots are people, groups and organisations that had deliberately broken laws into my life. I can tell you everything. From the acting stunt I did when I was shaking people with my left hand and pretending to cry and saying I shake with the left hand because it's close to the heart, and then touching my heart and pretending having a breakdown. Yes, that was acting. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for validating what a good actor I am, but I didn't need the validation because I have already studied at Screenwise acting for film and television back in 2006, and I have actually done paid acting work. So thank you, but that was fake. Walking up to Lavinia, who was definitely a pawn in this, this chess game here going on. So when I first met her down, not far from Cathedral Street, the corner of East Sydney Hotel there, with her friend Craig, and then Lavinia was talking to me like I was mentally retarded and my dog calling my dog a baby and all this ridiculous crap. So then I thought, you're going to speak to me like I'm mentally retarded, then I'm going to talk back to you like I'm mentally retarded. And I did that. That was acting. That's right. I've already explained this. Yes, that was acting. That's not real. Me going to Lavinia, pretending that I couldn't remember her name and calling her Nana Ruby, saying, oh yes, I always wanted a son and God gave me a dog instead, but putting on the lisp and saying I have a speech impediment and, yeah, okay, not true, but you did deliberately, like the other organisations did, deliberately break laws into my life. Yes, I know. Dinner's going to be ready in a minute. There we go. That's time. I only want to do it as a half an hour post. But I've explained this. I'll keep it up there because it's going to go further. I won't back down. This is extreme defamation. This is extreme defamation and discrimination. And those people I want arrested. You're not going to keep lying about me. You've done it for 9 years. That's it. You can pay me the damages that you owe me and you can move on. Because you in the medical health industry and other groups and organisations, you made the mistake. The problem is that you underestimated me. And that's what you lot did. You underestimated me.